energy challenges in Southeast Europe and the East Mediterranean. I'm not going to do any further introduction because we're running late, and I've asked the speakers to be as short as possible. So our first speaker is online and ought to be Mr. Farantouris of the Syriza Party. I'm hoping that he's online and will come up immediately. Yes, good. Thank you. Welcome. Can we have the sound for the... Can someone connect the sound? Do you want to speak, Mr. Farantouris? Yes. The floor is yours. I'm just hoping that we've got the sound balance right. No, we're not getting sound then. No, we're not hearing you. We're having... The audio is very peculiar. Is that right? I'm not sure what's happened to the audio at the moment. Is there a technician who can check it? It's a bad connection. Is it possible we could have you... Can we change the order and give you another 10 minutes to sort it out? Does that work? This is not coming through clearly.
Tell him to refresh it. Do it again.
Can you speak again now? We think we may have it. Okay, just continue and see what it's like. Continue. Just keep.
No, continue with others. With the others. Continue with the others.
What do you mean continue with the other? Oh, right. Okay. We'll have to move to the rest of the panel while we sort out what's happening. I'm just going to cut very quickly. Mr. Ghazi, would you like to give a presentation now? Just a short one. Yes, thank you.
Does it work now? Yeah? Oh, great, thanks. Many thanks for the invitation for the conference. I'm Evangelos Gazis from Aurora Energy Research. I'll keep it short. The title of this session is The Challenges in Southeastern Europe region. That's not the right one. But yes, so I'll talk more about what we do best at Aurora, which is wholesale electricity markets and long-term forecasting. So I will talk a little bit about the challenges for consumers on one hand, but also developers and investors on energy assets on the other hand. So starting with some key challenges. The first one might be, the level of prices, the level of electricity prices, which is certainly a big issue for consumers. So what we have observed is very high prices lately, and this has continued this year. So when we look at in the future, there are different dynamics, and there is good news, there is bad news when it comes to what's to be expected from electricity prices. So if we look at the underlying dynamics, based on the way market design is currently across Europe, we should think about gas prices and carbon prices, because that's how marginal pricing works, and still thermal units play an important role in setting prices across Europe. So when we look at gas prices, we expect prices to drop over the next few years. That is to do with more supply of gas, so more availability of gas over the next few years. More terminals will become available, so LNG will be more available. And that means that prices will drop from current levels of around 40 euros per megawatt hour to maybe just over 30 euros by 2030. That's our expectation. Later on, we expect prices to grow. Gas demand will grow, but also, given that we will depend more on LNG, which is a globalized commodity, growth in China, in Eastern Asia will mean that LNG demand will be high and prices will be higher. So we do expect the price to grow over time for gas. Carbon, on the other hand, is only expected to go up. It will grow fast until 2030 because decarbonization ambition is quite high. It will slow down but continue to grow after 2030. So both those things, both those commodities will have an upward pressure on electricity prices. So that's the bad news. The good news is that the mix is also changing. So there is more and more renewables in the system, which obviously push prices downwards. So the two dynamics cancel each out more or less. So we expect that baseload prices, electricity prices in Greece, but also in the wider region, to de-escalate. So they will drop over the next few years until 2028, 29, from current levels of around 100 euros to maybe 80 euros, 90 to 80 initially, and then below 80 or around 80 in the medium to long term. And then they will stabilize at those levels. Capture prices, on the other hand, so the prices that on average renewables get, will be a lot less. So this is to do with the cannibalization, especially for solar, which, cannibalization is already at 40%. It will grow to more than 50, up to 60 in certain regions, which means that the capture prices will be low, obviously a big challenge for investors. So that's on prices. When it comes to another challenge that we have seen lately, again related to investors, is negative prices, the occurrence of negative prices. So that was not an issue. We had a few, maybe 10, 12 hours of negative prices in the past. But now, last year, we saw maybe 200 instances of negative prices here in Greece. And this year, we expect this will double. So what drives this? Obviously, the fast deployment of renewables, the fact that they might be bidding below zero, based on what kind of tariff they're getting, and also the fact that there is a lot of inflexible capacity that might bid below zero in order to stay online. This will not change, but what might change and might shift the narrative here is the flexibility in the system. More batteries, but also demand-side flexibility will change this. And we have already seen this. It's quite optimistic to see what happened in California last year. So there was more than 800 instances, so almost 9% of the hours last year were negative or close to zero. But this year we already see this effect being lower, and that is to do with the deployment of batteries. So good news on that front. At least what we expect is, yes, the deployment of flexibility to be faster compared to the deployment of renewables in terms of impacting negative prices. So overall, good. I might stop here. Maybe we can revisit. Yes. I have some other challenges related to bankability of projects and the role of banks, but maybe we can come to that later.
Mr. Gazis, thank you very much. Can I also just check with the technicians that they will tell me when Dr. Ferrantouris is back online? Meanwhile, I think if we can move straight on to Dr. Vlasios Okomonu, and for talking, we do need to talk about energy efficiency. Yeah. So it's good to have you here.
Yeah, thanks a lot. And thanks for INF for the for the invitation. So I represent an organization in the Netherlands. It's Institute for European Energy and Climate Policy, where we do several projects and run several of TSI, technical support instruments, to member states regarding the implementation of various directives. So I'll just move a bit further from this very interesting talk from Mr. Gazis. And when we speak about southeastern Mediterranean areas and the southeastern Europe, normally we always speak about the supply side. And it's quite common because there is a lot of new inputs coming in, new RES capacity, new hydro, new LNGs now and all that. Often what we forget is the demand side, which is a real problem in this area. And by demand side, I mean aspects like energy efficiency, energy saving ratios and all that, which are the predominant ones to reduce the energy costs for the consumers, and through that we can control the volume and the timing of the consumption. I would say that if we take into account now that within the EU there are several targets, like we have recently last week, Mr. Fanadouris could also discuss more if the connection is good. We have the 2040 90% greenhouse gas emissions targets. Like we've got a bunch of directives, of difficult directives, following targets on energy saving, energy efficiency and all that. Like we've got to save 11.5% on final energy consumption by 2030. Since we're here in Greece, Greece has also its national energy and climate plan, and it has also its own targets. So all this comes as a bubble, and we have to see that if we don't have investments on the demand side, practically, but only on the supply side, even with renewables, if we speak about the decarbonization part, they can still increase the cost per kilowatt hour, especially for the households with lower incomes and inefficient buildings, because that's one of the core problems linked to this region, especially in Europe. Now, I would say that for that reason, there is the European Commission has already set one of the principles. It's the energy efficiency first principle, which practically balances the investments on the demand and supply. In other words, if we have to select and to attribute some amount from a public investment to a supply side project, be it LNG, be it whatever, we must always, based on this article, check if this amount would be given to the demand side, so to energy efficiency measures, if this would be socially better and more economically viable. To that extent, we've carried out several exercises, and just to give you an idea, for decarbonization regions, for coal regions, let's say in just transition, for instance, here in Western Macedonia, but also in other parts of the southeastern Europe, we carried out such analysis, and you see that if you invest on the continuation of the fossil fuel expansion in heating, for instance, in buildings, let's say with Western Macedonia, for the example, you would have an NPV of about 20 million, 25 million euros, but if you invest the same amounts to deep or medium renovation, shallow renovation, let's say medium to deep renovation, you would even get an NPV of 100 million euros. So you can see that it's a large five-fold difference. This practically brings us to the point that now the situation is that even in Greece and in several of these countries, the final energy consumption has been the same more or less from 2018 to 2023. So it's not really that big difference and not really that big saving rate that you would expect from all the investments being carried out. For the Greek people, of course, you know that there is always a trouble, the standard problems with the XVIII and all these type of programs that everybody loves, but it's so hard to implement due to the inefficiencies of the system. But that's not only the point. The point is also that we don't have mature programs enough, we don't have substantial investments to balance the supply and the demand side, and that creates a problem that we lag behind in efficiency measures. Okay. So just to round it up, next to what was said, we have also to compare that in order to promote the decarbonization in this region, the ratio between the prices, gas and electricity, has to reduce. For instance, in Greece, we got like 2.4% higher electricity price than gas, and about 2% from that comes from the taxes only, so that needs a bit of normalization of taxation. And in essence, that brings us to the point that if we didn't have any efficiency so far all these years, the last 20 years, practically would end up having about 27 to 30% more energy consumption based on the standards we have. So imagine what the costs per household and for all the economy would be. And finishing here, and I think we have more time, is that to discuss furthermore, is that the message perhaps being that the energy efficiency is a core part and should be a core part, a machinery in the southeast region. That would be the realist challenge. And let's say the management of the demand side is not just an additive or a complementary measure, but practically should be the epicenter, the nuclear of a transition for this region with low costs, social acceptance, and energy security. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Dr. Oikomenou. I think we can probably now turn, or we should be able to Dr. Nicholas Valentouris, if we can have him online now. And I'm so sorry that you had to be delayed, but I hope it's all sorted out. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and apologize for this delay as well. And greetings from Brussels. Can you hear me?
Yes, perfectly.
Excellent. Καλησπέρα λοιπόν και στους συμπατριώτες μου στην Ελλάδα. Let me turn to Greek and να ξεκινήσω από την ασφάλεια του ενεργειακού εφοδιασμού με την οποία ξεκίνησε ο προηγούμενος ομιλητής μας. Αυτή τη στιγμή που μιλάμε, στη διπλανή αίθουσα συζητείται ο προϋπολογισμός της Ευρωπαϊκής Ένωσης. Ο πολυετής δημοσιονομικός προϋπολογισμός, το πολυετές δημοσιονομικό πλαίσιο. Και σε αυτόν τον προϋπολογισμό περιλαμβάνονται πολλοί κωδικοί που σχετίζονται με τις ενεργειακές διασυνδέσεις της Ευρώπης. Και ένα μεγάλο κομμάτι του προϋπολογισμού για τις ενεργειακές διασυνδέσεις της Ευρώπης αφορά τις διασυνδέσεις των Βαλκανίων και της Ανατολικής Μεσογείου. Ξεκινώ λοιπόν από τη διαπίστωση ότι η Ευρωπαϊκή Ένωση δίνει χρήματα για την ασφάλεια ενεργειακού εφοδιασμού και για αυτό που ονομάζουμε διαφοροποίηση των πηγών ενέργειας, και εδώ και τουλάχιστον 20 χρόνια οι περισσότεροι από όσους παρακολουθούν το εξαιρετικό συνέδριο του ΙΕΝΕ, αλλά και όσους ασχολούμαστε με τα ενεργειακά, γνωρίζουμε πολύ καλά. Πάνω από 20 χρόνια το diversification of energy sources and routes, η διαφοροποίηση των ενεργειακών οδεύσεων και πηγών, είναι ο αντικειμενικός στόχος της Ευρωπαϊκής Ένωσης. Η πατρίδα μας, η Ελλάδα, η χώρα που φιλοξενεί αυτό το συνέδριο, είναι ιδανικά τοποθετημένη για να εξυπηρετήσει αυτό το σκοπό. Αλλά για να γίνει αυτό θα πρέπει να υπάρχει ένας σχεδιασμός και κυρίως να υπάρξει μία σοβαρότητα στα διάφορα έργα τα οποία η Ευρωπαϊκή Ένωση χρηματοδοτεί κατά καιρούς. Για παράδειγμα, η Ευρωπαϊκή Ένωση πίστηκε ότι ένα από αυτά τα έργα που αξίζει να χρηματοδοτήσει και να υποστηρίξει για την ασφάλεια του ενεργειακού εφοδιασμού και για την διαφοροποίηση των πηγών και των οδεύσεων ενέργειας ήταν ο αγωγός EastMed, the East Mediterranean Pipeline. Ο αγωγός αυτός, στον οποίο δούλεψα και εγώ για πάνω από 10 χρόνια ως Διευθυντής Νομικών Υπηρεσιών, Νομικών Σύμβουλος και κάποια εποχή υπηρεσιακός πρόεδρος της ΔΕΠΑ, έχει μπει στο σιρτάρι εδώ και 3 χρόνια. Και πιθανότατα να μην βγει ποτέ από το σιρτάρι. Ένα άλλο project που δεν αφορά το φυσικό αέριο, αλλά αφορά την ηλεκτρική διασύνδεση, είναι το έργο GSI, το περίφημο καλώδιο μεταξύ Ελλάδας και Κύπρου. Και αυτό εξυπηρετεί την ασφάλεια του ενεργειακού εφοδιασμού και έχει χρηματοδοτηθεί από την Ευρωπαϊκή Ένωση και έχουμε δώσει μάχη για να ενταχθεί στα έργα κοινού ενδιαφέροντος και να χρηματοδοτηθεί με πάνω από 700 εκατομμύρια ευρώ, σχεδόν 1 δισεκατομμύριο ευρώ. Έχει το έργο αυτό πρικοδοτηθεί από την Ευρωπαϊκή Ένωση, το οποίο μέχρι πρότινος είναι και αυτό στο σιρτάρι για κάποιο λόγο, μετά τα γεγονότα της Κάσου πριν από 1 χρόνο. Πριν από λίγες ώρες, ο Πρωθυπουργός της Ελλάδος με τον Πρόεδρο της Κυπριακής Δημοκρατίας συναντήθηκαν και είπαν ότι καταλαβαίνουν ότι το project αυτό πρέπει να συνεχιστεί. Χαίρομαι πολύ που το διαπιστώσαν επιτέλους. Και επίσης είπαν ότι κάτι που δεν κατάλαβα, αλλά μένει να διευκρινιστεί τι σημαίνει, ότι θα αναζητήσουν και άλλους επενδυτές. Μακάρι να έρθουν επενδυτές, αλλά μέχρι στιγμής επενδυτές υπάρχουν. Είναι οι ενδιαφερόμενες εταιρείες, οι οποίες έχουν συμφωνήσει να προχωρήσουν αυτό το project και έχουν χρηματοδοτηθεί από την Ευρωπαϊκή Ένωση. Ελπίζω να μην είναι μια ακόμα αφορμή για να καθυστερήσει. Θέλω να πω λοιπόν ότι η ενεργειακή ασφάλεια της Ευρώπης, τα ενεργειακά δίκτυα των Βαλκανίων και της Ανατολικής Μεσογείου, η ασφάλεια ενεργειακού εφοδιασμού και γενικότερα η ασφάλεια της περιοχής μας περνάει και μέσα από τη χρηματοδότηση της Ευρωπαϊκής Ένωσης. Εγώ ως μέλος της Επιτροπής Προϋπολογισμού και της Επιτροπής Ασφάλειας και Άμυνας, μαζί με άλλους συναδέλφους, δίνουμε μάχη κατά καιρούς, όπως δίναμε μάχη και τα προηγούμενα χρόνια από τις θέσεις ευθύνης που βρισκόμασταν κάποιοι από εμάς για να χρηματοδοτηθούν αυτά τα projects. Αν όμως είναι αυτά όλα τα έργα να χρηματοδοτούνται και να μπαίνουν στο σιρτάρι μετά από λίγο, επειδή υπάρχουν αλληλοσυγκρούμενα επενδυτικά ή ιδιωτικά ή επιχειρηματικά συμφέροντα ή απλά μια διστακτικότητα εκ μέρους των χωρών που τα φιλοξενούν, τότε δεν κάνουμε τίποτα. Καλώ λοιπόν τους φίλους που μας παρακολουθούν και συμμετέχουν στη λήψη των αποφάσεων και στην υλοποίηση της ενεργειακής πολιτικής της χώρας να σκεφτούν σοβαρά πόσο κακό κάνει όταν projects τα οποία εξυπηρετούν και την Ευρώπη και τις χώρες μας, αλλά ευρύτερα και την αγορά, παραπέμπονται στις ελληνικές καλέμπες. Σας ευχαριστώ πάρα πολύ και με συγχωρείτε για την προηγούμενη δυσκολία σύνθεσης.
Not at all, Dr. Varantoris, and thank you very much indeed, not least because of the way in which we have seen a sort of era of gas pipelines being increasingly, shall we say, coming up with an era of electricity connections. So our next speaker, unless I'm told by the communications team, will be Dr. Amit Moore, because I haven't heard that we've got Artur Lukovsky online. It's a video. Okay. Well, then can we have Dr. Amit Moore first, please? Thank you.
Thank you. First,
Oh, okay. If you've got the video, we'll take the video.
okay.
That's all right.
Achieved and the road ahead. 20 years ago, our journey began at the gathering of like-minded people in Athens, where the Energy Community Treaty was signed. Since that day, Greece has remained at the heart of our story, bridging the European Union and Southeast Europe, shaping policy and diplomacy, and connecting every market across borders. And so, it is fitting that we return here, because the ideas and partnerships forged at this conference will help shape how Southeast Europe secures its energy future and leads in the clean energy transition. Indeed, the platform this conference provides reminds us that energy cooperation is the cornerstone of stability and prosperity. The energy community's experience has affirmed that this is true. 2 decades ago, the decision to create a common, rules-based framework for energy was a choice to leave division and the scares of war behind. We honor that decision with action. Contracting parties have built electricity markets from scratch. These are now increasingly integrated with each other and with the European Union. Transparent trading and steps toward market coupling with the EU mean fairer price and better investment environments to drive the transition. Cross-border interconnectors, pipelines and emergency mechanisms have made the region more secure, even in the toughest times. The next chapter of our shared journey will be defined by 3 imperatives. First, full electricity market coupling with the EU's internal energy market. While contracting parties' markets are already interconnected with the EU neighbors physically, coupling with the EU's single day-ahead and intraday markets is missing clean for delivering secure, affordable and sustainable energy region-wide. This missing link is well within reach. The Energy Community's electricity integration package offers this opportunity to contracting parties, even before accession. You, in this room, have an enabling role to play. We depend on you to provide the liquidity, the investment, and the innovation that turn rules on paper into markets that work. Our second imperative is decarbonization. Across energy community contracting parties, governments have set ambitious climate and energy targets, aligning with the European Union climate objectives through, among other things, renewable expansion, greater energy efficiency, and emission cuts on the path toward carbon neutrality. National energy and climate plans will turn targets into measurable results, converting renewable potential into renewable power. Because decarbonization creates the price signals needed to unlock investment, not only in wind and solar, but also in storage, flexibility, and digital solutions. Coupling creates the stability to balance variability across borders. In other words, coupling ensures that higher shares of renewables strengthen rather than strain our system, making them fit for a low-carbon future. Yet tomorrow's energy system must be both clean and shock-proof. As the EU moves to phase out Russian pipeline gas by 2027, we must act to safeguard energy resources. This means not only expanding renewable energy, but also diversifying the fuels that still underpin our security of supply. And that is our third imperative, a secure energy future through diversification. And also in this point, Greece has a big role to play here. Its LNG infrastructure and cross-border interconnections, including the Trans-Adriatic pipeline, are turning the country into a true regional gateway for energy infrastructure resilience. And the people in this room have the power to help turn existing infrastructure into a backbone for that resilience. The Trans-Balkan pipeline is the best example of what is at stake. Our recent study shows that by adjusting tariffs, transport costs from Greece to Ukraine could fall by more than 40%. Fully utilized, it could generate over 90 million euros in additional revenue for operators, particularly through flows of LNG from Greece to Ukraine. This is a clear win for Europe, unlocking the full value of assets we already have. Here, once again, market integration will prove essential. The implementation of the same EU energy acquis at the interconnection points across the corridor, whether in the EU member states or in the Energy Community contracting parties, will convert technical readiness into sustained flows. And again, you can make difference by booking capacity, by investing in new flows, by pressing for regulatory coordination, and by building partnerships. You can help transform the Trans-Balkan corridor into a living artery of diversification. Ladies and gentlemen, the energy community is a community of shared values, built on the belief that cooperation can deliver energy markets that serve our citizens. As we head into our next chapter, the Energy Community Secretariat is eager to work with you, because you, in this room, bring these markets to life through every trade, every investment in renewables and infrastructure, and every act of cooperation that brings our region closer together. Together, we can carry forward a 20-year legacy of cooperation, transforming it into the foundation of Europe's clean and integrated energy future. Thank you very much.
Mr. Lukowski, thank you very much, particularly for the way in which you're stressing that partnership and cooperation can have practical results in terms of cash returns. Our next speaker is Dr. Amit Moore, who's very patiently stood in there.
Thank you, John, and thank you, Kostis Stambolis, INE, for inviting me. Always a pleasure to be here. I'd like to relate to three major challenges. First, coming from Israel after two difficult 2 years of war. First, I must say that the Israeli electricity and energy system showed a major resiliency. There was no shortage of electricity even for 1 minute. But what was highlighted is that, especially the 12 days war with Iran, the first Israel-Iran war, as I call it, Israel has to shut 2 of its offshore gas platforms. and only was supplied by gas. 70% of the electricity is supplied in Israel by gas from one platform. By also shutting the flow of gas to Jordan and to Egypt. Now, also 70% of the electricity in Egypt is rely on Israeli gas, and 15% of the gas in Jordan, and 15% of the gas in Egypt itself. So what happened immediately is major shortages of electricity in Amman and other parts of Jordan. So what it just show and demonstrates that with becoming a major supply source of electricity come also responsibility. I immediately prepared a plan that had this war continued for another several days. There should be blackouts in Israeli neighborhoods, rolling blackouts to allow some gas for production of electricity and generating of electricity in Jordan, because otherwise, in no time, I see 1 million people surrounding the palace of the king, and in an extreme scenario, the Hashemite kingdom might fall in such a scenario. So, which means, and highlight the importance of diversification. Second major challenge, we are all talking about mitigation of greenhouse gases, such as carbon dioxide, methane, and so on and so forth. I'd like to spend 2 minutes highlighting adaptation to climate change, which we are all facing very, very difficulty. We just completed the first work for the Israeli government about the adaptation of the energy and water sectors to climate change. So just 2 examples. First, sea level rise, more than 1 meter in the Mediterranean, which is like a pool. Now, by more than 1 meter by the end of the century. When I was a kid, the maximum temperature of the sea water in Tel Aviv, August, September, was 26 degrees Celsius. Now it's 33 degrees, and in 30 years' time, hopefully in our lifetime, I mean, it's going to be 38 degrees Celsius. This is jacuzzi's temperature. Now, what it means is 45, 50 Celsius degrees temperature for many days during the summertime at the coastal plain of the Eastern Mediterranean. What it means, as highlighted before, here is increasing demand for energy and electricity on the one hand, especially for climatization, air conditioning, and so on. At the same time, decreasing supply of electricity, both in PV, when a very high temperature, so efficiency decreases, and also in combined cycle gas turbines, efficiency might decrease by 30 to 40%. So in addition to AI and EVs and data centers and so on and so forth, climate change will cause major shifts in demand and supply. So in all the world, but especially in our region of the East Mediterranean, and we all feel that. We all feel that. Already reported the hottest October and November in the East Mediterranean ever recorded. And it is going again and again and again. So this is a major, major challenge. Last thing I'd like to rely to what was mentioned by the former speaker, and this is interconnectivity in terms of, just to relate to one project, and this is the Euro-Asian Electricity Interconnector, or the Great Sea Interconnector, connecting Greece to Crete, already commissioned, then from Crete to Cyprus, third leg to Israel, possibly also to Egypt. Now, the second leg, the major leg from Crete to Cyprus, here it's much depends on the I would say, decisiveness of the Greek government. Because, as we know, Mr. Erdogan, the elephant in the room in the East Mediterranean, he is against this project. Because of various reasons, he has this claim, exclusive economic zone, belongs to Turkey, and so on and so forth. But with a bully, one needs to relate and to treat with force. And I urge and hope that the Greek government, I'm not expecting major backup of the EU for that, will escort the implementing, or basically the ships which will construct the line, to be escorted by some military ships. I don't see Mr. Erdogan initiating a war on that. Because with an aggressor, with a dictator, with a bully which behaves very, very aggressively, the only way is to also show aggressiveness and decisiveness. And in this respect, I truly hope that the Greek government will find the power to do that, because otherwise I'm afraid that this project will not be materialized. It's a major interest, especially of Cyprus, but also of Israel, to become basically connected to Greece and the European grid. Thank you.
That is a very striking point indeed. And I completely understand, in view of the fact that this might be disputed in certain government circles in Athens, but in all probability there is in fact international water between Greece and Cyprus. And although that should not be any barrier to laying a pipeline, or to be, in this case, an electric cable, as we know, Erdogan has his own views on subjects like this. So the idea that we have to be prepared to have a substantial presence, maybe it doesn't need to be military so long as it's made clear that if necessary, that military would be provided. But it has to be absolutely certain that this is going to go ahead and nothing will be allowed to stop it. So thank you very much. We do have an online speaker, Theodora Gorgieva, the CEO of the Interconnector between Greece and Bulgaria.
No, she spoke this morning.
Not coming? Not. Okay, fine. Then in that case, we do have some time for discussion. So the only question I would ask straight away right now is, what do you think we are going to see by way of connections, not just between Israel and Israel, Cyprus and Greece, but onwards to Egypt? How viable is that?
So I think the most important new connection that we'll see very soon is the supply of gas from Israel, not only to Jordan and to Egypt, but also to Syria and Lebanon with the existing pipeline, the Arab pipeline. And again, another, I would say, ambitions of Mr. Erdogan is fulfilling and becoming true, and this is supply of Azeri gas via Turkey to northern Syria, already to Aleppo, Haleb, and very soon the connection between Haleb and Homs in central Syria will be completed, and then basically Europe, Turkey, Azerbaijan are going to be connected via the Arab pipeline to Jordan and Egypt. So we can see Israeli gas and Azeri gas in this respect supplying the region. In this respect, theoretically, back-to-back or projects or as a supply of Israeli gas to Europe could be on a hedging basis schemes, could be arranged via that route. So once we see infrastructure in place, many interesting transactions can happen.
I would just like to make one point on this. The Azerbaijanis are very good at delivering gas to multiple customers. They've got something like 12 or 13 in Europe already. They can technically deliver to Syria. However, they lack the investment required to increase their gas output, which means the volumes they're delivering to these countries, with the exception, in effect, of Italy, are very small indeed. Very useful in the context, but they need investment, and that means long-term contracts to underpin major investment in new production because it's complex. They have the resource base, but they need the investment. And that probably means a significant change in European Commission policy with regard to investing in fossil fuels. But we do have some contributions coming here. I'd like to ask one question on the whole question of energy efficiency, just basically to say, are we right to regard it as the #1 fuel after we've been spending all our time talking about electricity? Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So I'll just keep it brief. Indeed, based on what everybody says, or at least in the IEA, it is the first fuel for the known reasons. One thing that I would like just to match the discussion here is that, indeed, gas will flow, a new gas will flow. The question always remains, just to play with the devil's advocate, at what cost? We have seen so many years cheap, in a way, whatever, call it, Russian gas, still created a serious energy poverty issue within all of these countries that we are mentioning now. Take Greece, for example, it's about 20% energy poor households who could not heat their homes adequately and all that. And in the other parts of the Southeast Europe, it's even worse. This, the problem is not only the supply system, but it's also the low incomes of the people taking the social part of the transition, the bad houses, in a way, the low insulated houses, or not at all insulated homes, and also the unstable prices in the market. This, next to that, we also have something coming up in 2028. It was 2027 bound to begin, but now, due to the negotiations, we're set for 2028. We've got the new emissions trading scheme 2, which is practically a new indirect or whatever market-based instrument, people name it in different ways, for a new price, a new cost on the gas, oil, and LPG, LNG burned within the homes and transport for households and micro-enterprises. We've been carrying out, so the prices could range from various, from this ranges for some years. The Commission estimates about 45 euros per ton of CO2, ranging up to 60 euros per ton of CO2, but in 2032, this will be linked to the incumbent ETS-1 system, which means that from 60 euros per ton, we go to 150 euros per ton. So this, you can imagine, is going to be a rapid change and quite a hard cost. Just 3 numbers I want to give, because we carried out the study for 10 countries from the Commission and also for Greece. The cost for that for the Greek households practically would be around 5.2 billion euros, corresponding about 1.15 for households in-house burning, for heating, 2.1 for transport, for the households using cars and everything, and about 2 billion euros for micro-enterprises. This means about loss of 1 to 2% of the income, or in other words, about 7% loss of VAT for Greece, or even worse, about 5% loss of GDP. So that's not a negligible number not to take into account and not to protect ourselves. Why I'm saying all that is that next to the supply side, we must ensure that the consumers are protected. And how they're protected? Through serious saving measures, through refurbishment of the buildings, through information and adequate information, and of course, through decarbonization, quicker decarbonization, at least of the heating system, which is the most viable option at this moment. I don't say everybody should buy EVs. It's not possible, it's too expensive. But at least let's promote refurbishments and decarbonization. Thank you.
Mr. Gazis, final word for you.
Sure. Just to add on this, and maybe adding another dimension. So obviously, energy efficiency, super important. One of the first things we should be doing when we talk about decarbonization. Another dimension, though, is also enabling more flexibility that is distributed. So making the demand side more responsive to price signals, for example, if we're talking about market-based mechanisms. So yes. In addition to efficiency, also enable distributed storage, distributed production, making the consumers transform them into prosumers, where this can have multiple effects. Obviously, the one is the better utilization of networks. So we move from a centralized system with lots of losses across the system to a more distributed, more resilient system with better utilization of the distribution system. obviously that increases efficiency of the system as a whole, but also it enables consumers to use energy more efficiently, to respond to prices, to participate in markets, and gain additional revenues, possibly. So they become more responsible users of electricity. So yeah, that can be done with different ways. So there is policy support that can be done, but also there is an infrastructure question here. Wide distribution of meters, smart meters, so that consumers have better visibility of consumption and better control. And of course, different types of distributed generation systems, like PVs that can be integrated in buildings, in rooftops, but also storage systems that can be modular and again integrated in residential and commercial buildings.
Thank you very much. So we'll end there. We've had energy efficiency and resilience, and if we think of infrastructure with those 2 points in mind, that's the way to do it. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
So, next panel now.
Perfect.
Thank you.